Hello everyone, good evening. We will be starting the session shortly. We will wait for 2 to 3 minutes. So all guys should join the live. I think we are ready to go. Okay, so let me start. So a very good evening to one and all present here. I welcome you all for today's event, CloudFest 2.0 BigQuery plus AutoML with our speaker Rushabh Basa. Rushabh is co-founder of Agreya Technologies and Avaz.com. AT is leading voice agency in India and preferred partner with Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. Their products include Conpro.ai, an AI-enabled assistant that is a conversational commercial engine, and Avaz.com, the largest podcast network in Indian languages. Some of the brands AT has worked on are Honda Cars, Tata Mutual Funds, SBI Life, then Samsung, Amazon, Abbott, etc. He is also Google developer expert in cloud technology and mentor at Google for Startups, also known as Accelerator. So without any further delay, I hand over to Rushabh. Over to you, Rushabh.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you very much and welcome all. It's great pleasure to be here and talking about BigQuery, which is one of my favorite topic as well. Today I will be talking about BigQuery, BigQML, and also cover some part of AutoML as well. We'll show you some demo and also would like to kind of have some questions. Please put it into chat in the end of the talk. We would probably take all these questions and. Yeah, that's it. That's about me. Thanks for the introduction, Nina. Let me share my screen so that. Sorry. So I'm sure you guys are having great time for 30 days of Google Cloud and must be learning a lot of new things. Right. Can you see my screen? Like by any chance? Or is it like
No, it's like dark black color.
okay, let me just again. Still not coming? Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
Again, it's gone dark, blackish.
Now?
Yeah. Now visible. Yeah, visible.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Great. So, Nina already told about me. I'm co-founder of Agreya Technologies, and we are voice and audio company. Let's move directly to the today's topic, which is BigQuery. So I'm sure, like you must have studied about SQL and queries, and you must be using some tables. So, what's the difference that BigQuery brings? So basically, BigQuery is something it's an enterprise tool which is powered by Google Cloud Platform, which gives you the analytics on your petabyte scale data. Just imagine we all know that today's world of data and uh, how data is important. We are companies, IoT companies, even startups, everyone is collecting tons and tons of data every day from all the user actions they are having and other things like that, right? But what do they do with those data? There has to be some sort of analysis that needs to be done. There should be some kind of outcome from that data, right? And that's what BigQuery provides. So like definition is very simple. It's an enterprise data warehouse. But what does it mean? So it can store some exabyte of data. It can run queries on petabyte of data. Just imagine, like, if you have 1 lakh rows, 5 lakh rows, if you're running a regular SQL queries, how much time would it take? And that, to imagine, like, if you have multiple tables, and then each table would have some hundreds of columns and then millions of rows on it. So that scale of data needs to be analyzed. And now everyone, you would have heard about the buzzword about data science and data analytics. It's all done with, but for that you need a strong infrastructure or a tool and service that can support to run and get you the maximum out of it. So that's what BigQuery provides. And best part is it's a managed service, so you don't have to worry about the BigQuery's infrastructure management or even the hardware management and things like that. It is managed by Google Cloud, and it's a serverless, so you can immediately start. And we will see in the demo that how quickly we can start using BigQuery, and it's all very easy to use for end user. You don't have to worry about practically anything in the backend, even infrastructure for that point. Also, it's a real time, so you can ingest your data. Let's say there are use cases where there is a data which is coming real time, and you want to analyze those data on that particular moment. Like, for example, the traffic signal data or the weather data, which is a very real time, or even any that sort of real time data. So you can do that in BigQuery very easily. It also has a built-in ML model. It's called BQML, BigQuery ML. We will talk about that also. So that's also very interesting. To start, like, how you can build your own models and use it on the data which is already there in BigQuery. It also has its own built-in models. Plus, you can build your own models. All that is possible. We'll talk about that also. And again, as I told, it's very high speed. It has an in-memory BI engine, so that supports a very fast reporting and analysis. Also, it is supported or connected with Data Studio, so you can easily and quickly visualize the data. You can create multiple charts and tables where it can help you analyze more data and give some results out of it. So that's the power of BigQuery. Also, like, for example, the one of the biggest data stored on BigQuery is of 250 petabyte size of data. That is one of the Google Cloud client has stored. And the BigQuery, one of the largest query which is run on BigQuery is like 5 petabyte of data. So just imagine that kind of scale that you get on BigQuery. So, however, when you want to do, and then, like, like when I said, like, about the ML, so when you want to do machine learning on those side of data, you see a lot of tasks which are not really machine learning specific, right? So this lets you create a model in a notebook or even a simple data that works as well. To create like a production model, then we'll see how to write the ETL pipelines for model creation and how to do ETL as well. But all this is practically is provided into uh, in your BigQuery ML. And the BigQuery, the headache is entirely of BigQuery. So, for example, the governance policies that you need to take care of, and all these are needs to be designed. And if you, let's say, you have a second big ML model which is outside your VM cluster in BigQuery. So, usually if you have a data at some place and if you have your ML model at another place, usually the companies or the corporate, the enterprise will not like it. So to be everything in one environment also is very important. Also, for example, the compliances, security, all that sort of data is taken care by BigQuery. Right. So, what is BigQuery ML now? So we spoke about the BigQuery, and then of course I'll show you in demo as well that how BigQuery works. But if you want to kind of understand what is BigQuery, so you just definition says the Google is the Google, how this Google Cloud solves help you solve the problem of machine learning with an SQL interface, and that's the most important thing. So BigQuery ML, the Google Cloud brings machine learning to the data itself through two simple SQL commands. So you just need to use the basic SQL commands, and you can convert your uh, regular SQL queries into the ML queries. So you can create model that would build that will build a model for your within BigQuery, and the second you just run ml.predict to use that model and get the prediction in BigQuery. So it's that easy. So all your features go into the select statement. So you can very fastly create our models by changing your features and the model type within SQL. So and Google Cloud automates a lot of standard ML tasks like splitting of training and test and splitting of training and test data sets, standardizing of numeric features, and coding of categorical features and things like that. So all this is taken care by Google Cloud. So with the minimum number of lines of code, you can get a pretty good model. And finally, since this happens in BigQuery and there is no infrastructure management, as I said earlier, all the governance action policies also defined are automatically applied to this machine learning workload. So that also is very interesting and amazing thing. So what are the models which are supported by BigQuery? So I'm sure if you have some background about the ML, you would know that there are different ML models that you can build, like logistic regression, DNN classifier, or good state trees and things like that. So all Google Cloud is supported this BigQuery ML by supporting all these new model types, which should enable you to address most of the machine learning use case you have on BigQuery. So in fact, Google Cloud have added a new type of models to BigQuery ML to help you create many more machine learning models, like you can see on the screen, to address most of these use case that you would have machine query or ML in BigQuery specifically for a classification or regression model. And GCP have added support for creation of boosted trees, for example, using XGBoost, you can do that. Or even it is connected with AutoML table, so you can use AutoML tables and get the data from AutoML table. Or you can also build some k-mean cluster models or the time series forecastings and things like that. So these are usually different type of ML models that you build, just in case, like if you're finding this is what I'm talking about. So when you're building an ML model, you have different type of classifications, regression models. Also, if you're building some model, let's say using TensorFlow, so you can import and export for batch uh, online predictions and things like that. So that's the best part. And also you can create a model in BigQuery and use it for online prediction in Google Cloud AI platform, or your own serving stack, like whichever stack that you are using. So that's what Google Cloud provides. So when you select a BigQuery, you need to be very cognizant about the location that you select, what sort of regions that you are in, and then, for example, when you're specifying a location for storing your BigQuery data, when you create a data set, so it asks you for the location, right? So after you create data set, the location cannot be changed. So that is, you have to be very careful about those things as well. But you can copy, of course, you can copy the data set and to a different location manually, and then or you can move that, move in the sense you can recreate the data set in a different location. Now, BigQuery ML processes and stores all the data in the same location as targeted data set. So that's also very important, so that when you're building or using this, how you choose the location. Now, and also at the same time, so BigQuery and BigQML is a regional and multi-regional resource. So not all kind of model training are supported in all regions. So like we saw about different models which are supported. You also have to be sure that what model you are going to build and whether it's supported in that region or not. So that is also very crucial when you are creating your BigQuery model. For example, there is a like for linear regressions or logistic regression or k-means is supported in all the regions, because these are like very common and popular models. But if you are imported and exported, let's say there is a DNN or boosted tree using XGBoost model that you want to build, then that's available only in multi-region US or EU. So even for training for AutoML table is supported in multi-region US and EU. So you have to be very much careful when you create this kind of data sets and models that you want to do. So let's now. I think I have spoken a lot, and I assume it has been a little technical as well. So you might be finding a little difficult to understand. So let me just show you that how easy it is to start with BQ. Of course, we will not build the BQML model because it will take some time, and then it needs some time for it. But I'll show you how to do it in the console. First, importantly, how to create a BigQuery, how to use that, how to import the data, and things like that. So let me just share my screen with you, console screen. Yeah. I hope you can see my screen. Right. So it's very easy. You go to GCP. I've just created a simple demo project for you. But in case you have a GCP account, just go to BigQuery. This is how the BigQuery console looks like initially. Okay. So I have a project called BigQuery demo. Here you can create the dataset. Now I created a demo dataset, but I'll just show you how to create a dataset because as I mentioned, when you create a dataset, it will ask you for the data location, and that would be very crucial to select because you'll be if you are trying to build some model. So let's say I demo. I would name it as demo. Uh, I'll just put anything, and then of course, you can do encryption if you have your own key. You can use using uh, Google Google Cloud Key Management Service, or you can use default Google Managed Encryption key. Also, you can have the default range. So, but I'll just create a data set just to show you that how. Okay, now see, the data set is created. Now, data set is nothing but the set of tables or the collection of tables that you have, right? So that's the data set. So, and you can also delete the data set as easily as you created. You just that's it. Now data set is deleted. Now, so once the data set is created, you open this data set, you will see all the information about that particular data set. So let's say, for example, for this particular data set, the location is US. This was created like 15 minutes back or whatever time you do. Whether we have set any expiration for, you can label the data set and things like that. So, and you can add a description about the data set. Okay. So things like that. So all this will help you have a lot of data which you can eventually manage. Now, once you have the data set, you want to create tables, right? Like how do you do that? So either there are option to create a table, and in that table there are multiple ways from where you can bring your data into the BigQuery. So for example, you can create an empty table and then ingest some data through API or through some real-time feed that you have, or you can import your data to Google Cloud Storage. Let's say you have some files or CSV or anything on Google Cloud Storage or a bucket, and you want to import it into BigQuery. You can do that. You can also upload. You can pull it from the drive. You can pull it from the query table, or even for Amazon S3 storage if you are using. So these are different ways where you can bring the data uh, from other endpoints to BigQuery. Today I'll show you just a simple example that how do we upload. So let's say if I upload, I can upload CSV file, JSON file, and things like that. So I have a sample data set of 50,000 cells record. It's a CSV file which I have. So let's just try importing. Okay, let me first unzip the file. Right. So here I can select any particular CSV file. Now I've selected up to 50,000 cells record. CSV file so that it's easy to import. I can import up to even like a million rows of sales record. It will not take much time. So I can do that. Here I can select a project and the dataset name. So we already have a BQ demo as our project, and dataset name we already set demo dataset. Now here I would have to set the name of the table. So because it's a, I just name it this table as a sales record. So just for the sample. Now here, this is very important. Like when you select a schema is basically nothing but the columns of a particular row. So if I select auto detect, what it will do is it will automatically select the columns in the CSV file and create the table accordingly. If I don't do it, then it will be I have to create my own fields basically. So let's say if there is a name, and then if I want to set it as a what type of field it is, string, integer, float, number, anything like that, and then whether it's required, null, and all these things. So I can either create my own schema, or I can just select auto detect, and it will automatically detect the schema and create a table with all the data. If I want to create a partitioning and cluster, I can use that also, which we don't think is required right now. And then there are certain advanced options which are like, if there is an error by importing, should we allow to import or not? What is the field delimiter? Because the CSV file I have selected comma, but it could be anything else as well. And all this. And again, we saw that either we can have our own Google custom key which can be managed using the GCKM, or use the standard Google key, right? So this is fine. And I just click on create table. When I click on create table, it has started creating table in the backend. I also imported the data, and you can see the table here. The data table is created and the data is imported. Now, if you see, this entire schema it has taken from the CSV file. So all these are columns basically in the CSV file, Excel file, and that it has created as a columns and schema. Again, it detected the type of values that that particular column has, and it has automatically given, like there is a date, there is integer, there is a unit sold, price, cost, all this. This is a float. All this is done automatically. So in in just 2 minutes, it imported the data and also created the table. Now, when you go into details over here, you can see all the details about the table. So, what is the table ID, for example? What is the size of the table? It's a 5.8 MB data. Now we see the number of rows are 50,000. As I said, I'm importing the CSV file which has a 50,000 records. So you can see that how many numbers are there. Whether, again, the location will of course be same. Now, if I want to preview, okay, what data is there? So you can see this is the data of that particular CSV file. And the sample data you can see over here, it shows some, and you can navigate, of course. You can select, you can go to page, next page, and load all the data. So you can see all the columns which are here and the data in it. I mean, you can imagine like how easy it is, and we are already there into the BigQuery. And then the next step, of course, like when you have the data in your database, what you want to do is run a query. Now, this is very interesting. So, for example, if I want to, let's say, let's say there are different countries of data, right? And if I want to, you can try running some small query, maybe. So you can see there is item type, for example, right? Or you want to see that, okay, what sort of item types are being sold in a country called Chad, right? So that we can just, I mean, it's a normal SQL query that you can probably run over here in query editor. So I can select basically, and it also auto suggests you the query. So uh, so now here you have to put the table name. So you can see the table, it shows that, okay, this is a table, and where you want to see where the country name. Okay. So we take the country name as Chad, right? Right, and the query is there. When I run this query, yeah, so you can see this query result. All the so there are 270 records which shows that okay, this is the sales in that particular country. For example, I can group by item ID, or I can group by unit price. I can do further query and yeah. But now what is interesting is now, okay, now this is good. This is like a regular query. You can also save this query. So if you're running certain queries regularly, you can save it as a query, or you can save as a view. You can also schedule if you want to run some particular result. Let's say there is a sales data that comes every day, and in the morning you want to have the results for the last day's data. So you can schedule that query accordingly. You can go to and now there are more settings. You can save the results. You can also get this result from JSON. So if you want to get this output from the JSON format, you can get that also. So if you want to pass through JSON through API and put it in some other database or some other environment, you can do that as well. It also shows you that okay, how much time does it take. For example, it took only 0.05 seconds. If you see the query took only 0.05 seconds. So even if I would have, and that is 50,000 rows of data. I've tried this if to run on 5 million data sets, and it doesn't take more than 2 seconds. So that sort of that kind of speed that it gives, and again, all these things you can analyze. Basically, input was 50,000 rows, and output was 270 rows. Now, this is all fine, right? All this is basically information about what exactly you have and what. So there's a temporary table created for this query result and all this thing. You can go to query editor and change this. But what is more important here is how you can explore the data. So either you can, as I said, you can save the result in CSV, or you can save the result in JSON, or you can create another BigQuery table from this data, or you can copy it to Google Sheets and other things like that. But I like this most is how you can explore this data. Now that's where you connect this data with the data studio. Now let's say if I go here, okay, let me share my other screen so that you can see another tab as well. Right. I don't know if you can see my screen. Yeah. So wait, I think I've shared wrong screen. Yeah. So what I've done is I've just exported that data from Explore data to the data studio here. And what is it is doing is it is just importing that entire data into the data studio. So data studio is a very interesting tool which helps you visualize the data and do other operations or sort of business operations and reporting that you need from that data in a very visualized way. So let's say if your management or any company's management want daily sales report of each country wise, or even for let's say salesman wise, or whatever data that they want to dig in, they can just easily export that into the data studio and start using it. It is that simpler. And it also has a pre-built charts and mechanism and forms and other templates which you can use to create a very beautiful reports. And this is very important. We are using this for one of our product avaz.com, where we analyze what sort of listenership is there, what kind of people are, what sort of podcast people are listening to, what is the time, how much time they are spending on that particular app, how much completion rate and other things. So all this is already there. I can probably if this is not working, I can show you some of the data that we already built. So this is like something that a sort of a chart that we have built for our own internal use, where we analyze that okay, what show is doing good on avaz.com, how much listenership it is generating, how much of streams it is generating. So for example, Bhagavad Gita, there is number it has got the highest streams of 5 lakhs. Then there are weekly charts. Then if you can go ahead, you will get a day-wise stream. So all this is coming from the BigQuery, right? So all this is basically the charts that how we want to see what people are doing or what kind of actions people are taking on the app. So there are people are sharing the episode, people are liking the episode, people are like subscribing it. Some people are downloading it. There are comments that people are doing. So all these kind of actions are captured, and now I can see basically that okay, at that particular day, how many people downloaded the content in the app, how many people liked it, how many people subscribed it, and things like that. And there are further more, engagement and data that we analyze based on, and all this is coming from BigQuery. So that is the best part about it. And then you can have filters, you can look for the stickiness and things like that. And you can see like this how beautiful it looks. So something that we were trying with our data that we show, but it usually initially takes some time to import that data. We can wait for a couple of minutes if it works. Otherwise, I just showed you that how does it look otherwise. So this is the power of BigQuery. And now if you want to, let's say you want to transfer some data from you want to transfer some data from BigQuery or you want to ingest some data. So you can do that using the data transfer service of BigQuery. Also, so if you have for that you have to enable the BigQuery API. And once you do that, it will allow you to import some data from Google Add your different applications that they are partnered with. So for example, if you want to import uh, Google Analytics data, for example, so you can do that. Or if you want to analyze your AdWords data or even Play Store data, so all that can be imported here. So that's also possible. As I also showed, like this is a normal query, but if you want to convert this into machine learning model, you just have to add two queries, for example here. I mean, and then you can define that okay, what sort of query mechanism you want, and then or what sort of big ML model you want to build. You can also schedule the queries, manage it over here. So it's a very simple console. You see there are there are not much of even functions to kind of even confuse. There is not much in it. There are a few tabs, few buttons, and it's all very easy to use. You can use the BI engine. The BigQuery BI engine is a very interesting tool. In fact, it is used at a large scale and enterprises to uh, run. And it also provides a flat rate. So we'll talk about the flat rate and dynamic rates and things like that. But yeah, that's what it is. I think it's not loading somehow for some reason. So you can probably try to do it later. As I said, like you want these are the things that you can do. You query, you can run the query. Okay, there has to be some data that I have to. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think the data studio is taking a little long time to import the data and then visualize. But I showed you the other examples, right? So that particular hours data which I showed you is coming from this data set, and there are different names. For example, there is a Firebase analytics that is coming and so we are capturing that. So if you want to see like so size and amount of data we have, it's tremendous. For example, let's say if I want to know what percent of what people are playing on my uh, app, right? So usually we want to know that okay, if we're building some app, what sort of listeners it is generating. So this is the data that we create, and that is again all saved here in BigQuery. So you can see the number of columns it could have, number of rows it would have. There is a search query that we store also at the same time. You can preview that as well. it takes a lot, huge amount of data. There are certain tables which has more than 1 million rows as well. So that is all. That's all about the BigQuery console. I mean, you can also do the same thing using the Cloud SDK or the command line as well. You can run the same sort of queries. You can create tables with all what we do on the graphical user interface can also be done using the APIs or the Google Cloud Console. Right. So let me just go back to my presentation. Right. Yeah. So we saw the demo, right? Basically, that how easy it is to use BigQuery. I mean, you can also build the same way. You can in the same query, or you can also create your ML models using the specifying. Of course, we can. I could have showed more on detail, but then if I have to create the model, then we'll miss out on the other things points that I want to cover. So now there is something very interesting that has come. It's called the BigQuery and BigQuery and Sheets. So you know Google Sheets, right? So you can connect Google Sheets on the BigQuery. You can also now create connect with your slides. So there is a Google Slides that you want to connect to. You can do that as well. So you can import your data from BigQuery and represent that into the slides. And why it is amazing, as I said, because we all use sheets to analyze data. So connected sheets is something that Google have launched, and connected sheet provides the power of and the scale of BigQuery and the context of sheets. So a lot of people and business people are comfortable using sheets. So connected sheet enables people to analyze billions of rows and right of like if if there is a 1 million rows in a sheet or Excel file, it will not open. But using the connected sheet, it will enable you to analyze billions of row data. It can be petabytes of size without requiring to kind of even have a specialized knowledge about SQL. So that's the most important thing. Like, when you're using connected sheet, it's all drag and drop. You can just easily pull out the data and then use the SQL or the sheets functionalities to derive some insight out of it. And it's a live collection between the BigQuery and the sheet. Means the data is real time, fresh. So you don't have to every time import the data. Once you connect, it's done. And it's again all within the Google secure architecture platform, so that you don't have to even worry about the security that okay, my data can be stolen. And then you can use all these pivot tables, charts, formulas which are available in SQL and on that particular big data. Just imagine, using the SQL or the sheets or the, Excel functions on this such a big data. So that's amazing. That's one of the things that we have done. Apart from that, there is something another interesting thing which is which BigQuery brings is AutoML tables. So as I say about AutoML, in AutoML there are multiple features that Google has. AutoML Vision API, AutoML Video API, AutoML and Translation API, and there is one more thing which is AutoML tables. So because in AutoML there are multiple services. We're talking about tables because it's connected to BigQuery. So that is also one of the new addition into this entire AutoML category. How it is, it's very simple. It is like anyone like we saw how easy it is to use BigQuery. Exactly in the same way you can also use AutoML and build your models. So for example, how it happens. So ideally the AutoML tables were created to build the best in class ML model on the structured data. Okay, so the structured data and scale and without and of course that too without making any complexity to build any ML model. So people who don't have knowledge about the architecture, the network, or the ML can use this. So that was the idea to build this AutoML table. And what does AutoML table does is AutoML searches through a set of architectures and builds the best possible models for you. So it will analyze your input. Based on that, it will predict certain model. Okay, this model works well for this sort of data, and then it will build that best possible model for you. So AutoML tables also have been its own UI, like we saw about the cloud, and it's like a model type of BigQuery basically, so that you can just create XGBoost model or logistic regression model, or you can also now create AutoML table classifier through the same SQL interface, that and very easy to build. And also you can create your own data and machine learning pipelines as well through that. So how does it work basically is like uh, what does it do is basically AutoML table enables you to automatically build and deploy uh, these models very fast. I mean, and it's as fast like we saw that we built an entire BigQuery table in just 10 minutes. It's exactly the same way. In AutoML modeling, there are a wide range of data types also, which could be like strings or timestamp or list or nested fields and all that. So it does modeling on all this wide range of data types. Also, what's interesting about AutoML is that you can do all that without any coding. I mean, that's the best part. You can just take a CSV like we saw right now, click a few buttons, wait and while, and get a very highly tuned model on the other end. Of course, model does take time and iterations that you define based on that number of iterations. It will the time will be defined, but it doesn't really take like hours and or days, for example, to train that model. And Google Cloud also, like they worked hard to build to enable this tool, so that different data types. That's very important. Like you want to predict some image-based data, or you want to predict something using the video, or you want to predict something the sales data. All this is very much possible, and that's the best part. So there are different use cases where we see these AutoML tables are used. So for example, as we say, like there is a recommendation through email. Like if you are searching through or going through certain product, and if I want to recommend you a related product through email or through ads, so you can use this AutoML table. There are in logistic industry. Let's say you want to estimate the time of delivery from, let's say if you're running an e-commerce and you want to estimate that okay, how much time it will take to deliver that product. You can do that. You can do predictive maintenance. You can also use this to customer with the lifetime value for retailers and banks. If the customer comes, what sort of business I can generate from that. So these are the few examples which would probably you can relate that okay, where this can be used in the real time. And all these startups and buzzwords about the data science and data analytics, this thing, all these are being used, or you can do all this thing using this without even having further complexity. Similarly, if you want to predict if someone is going to subscribe to your channel or not, or if someone is going to churn and make a market decision according. So all this can be done using the data that you have, and that BigQuery ML solves that particular problem, right? So apart from this, there are BigQuery is one of the most. I mean, Google sees this as one of the most important offering, and one of the most important. They keep updating and keep releasing new features. There has been some lately. There has been some new features launched like BigQuery Omni, Data Q&A. Again, very interesting tool. BQ Looker, BQ plus Looker. So I'll just give you some overview of what it is and what does it do basically. So these are the few new things which are now launched which are there in the BigQuery apart from the basic BigQuery and BigQML. So what is BigQuery Ml? BigQuery, now what does it help you is now you can bring multi-cloud analytics to your data with BigQuery Omni. So let's say it's a flexible multi-cloud analytics solution. That means you can uh, securely analyze data from GCP, AWS, Azure. They are going to come soon, and without going to that particular platform. So in a single platform, you can it will support multiple endpoints. So it also connects with Anthos. So again, Anthos clusters which are managed by BigQuery. So using the standard SQL and the same BigQuery API or the console that we sold, we will be able to break down this entire silos. And because a lot of these businesses have different data at different endpoints, or different projects, or even in different environments. So one could be AWS, other could be in GCP. So using BigQuery Omni, you can and BigQuery Omni is also powered by Anthos, so you'll be able to provide data without having to manage the entire infrastructure. So that's the best part, right? You can use in AWS and BigQuery. You can use both together and do certain analysis. Now, this is something I really, liked, which is data Q&A. So what does it do is it's a natural language question answer service. Okay, so uh, what does it does basically is it helps you enable your business users to get answer in the natural language without worrying about the BI or the data and analytics and all. The business user, like a sales manager, can simply ask a question to the company database and get the answer. So it can, like, you can just, like, what was my sales record, like, or what was my sales in last week, just a normal language query, like, like how you search in Google. You just have to type that particular query and enter, and the data Q&A will analyze that data from the natural language, convert it into query in the backend, get the result for you, and show you in a natural language. Okay, so your sales report data was, your sales figure was 300, let's say 300 million last quarter. I mean, in that. So people who are not into the technology, or people who understand this data analytics and so on, they can easily just go through it and just run this. So that's how it is. That's how easy it is. I mean, it's easy to use this entire BigQuery. Now, and that is especially meant for the non-technical users. So that gives a lot of power, for people who can build this and give to the organization, so that they can easily do it. And what does this data Q&A does? In the backend, it does is it does the entity and intent recognition. So they're mapping the underlying with the business model. So that's very important, and also enables anyone to converse with. Even it could be petabyte size of data. You can just easily get your answers from it, and also you can embed that particular embed with chatbots, spreadsheets, the BI platforms like Looker, as we said, or custom built-in UIs as well. So you can build your custom UI like we saw, and you can bring this data from there. Also, as a part of it's alpha right now, but as a part of this. It is also, they are planning to localize it. So for example, right now it supports in English, but in future it will also support regional languages as well. So maybe Hindi or European languages as well. So that's the best part about it. Uh, Now, how does this pricing? Because of course we are running a lot of load on the BigQuery, and also have a lot of data around it. Pricing is also important, right? Uh, so what is, there is a separate custom end that you want to do. So if you are using AutoML table, or if you are using just a BigQuery, or if you are using BigQML, so all this pricing will be based on this. There is a very interesting thing. It's called flat rate pricing. So if you have very large data, you can go for a flat rate. You can commit certain uses and you get the flat rate. That's saying, and then of course, initially to try, the first TB is free, and then after that there is a $5 per TB queries, and it could be long-term storage. So also you have to understand, see, BigQuery is not a storage. It is something that only you have to, analyze, and then based on that, you can, only their data has to be stored. It's not a bucket, or it's not a storage that you should use this to store your data. So that's very important that you should keep in mind while using BigQuery. And yeah, I think we are almost done with this. Okay, how do you know more about this? Of course, there are plenty of resources available. I would suggest you to try a basic demo like I showed you. Just go to Google Cloud Console, try to run a BigQuery, create some data set, create some tables, run some queries, and see the power of it. Also, if you want some more documentation, you can go to this link. There are blogs available. There are different use cases available. So all this is like available, and you can just try. So you can learn about BigQuery, AutoML, AutoML tables, and there are so many tutorials as available as well. So yeah, you can just go to Google and do that. Apart from that, yeah, so that's it. That's about today's talk. I hope you all understood and like the power of BQ, and would definitely suggest and recommend you guys to try this once hands-on. That will give you a more insights on how it is. Also, try to create a small BQML model using any data. Create some prediction model. Use a basic logistic regression model, and just see how accurate it is, and how easy it is. Like you can do that in half a day's time. It is as easy. So just do that as well. That's it. That's for
Yeah, thank you, Rishabh.
now.
That was a
Uh,
very insightful
I
session.
keep it simple, but I know some initial part was technical, but I had to, kind of, uh, I had to kind of do it so that I don't miss out on certain. Uh,
Means when I was at the backstage, I was thinking like we are the data you transferred is working like a real BigQuery. Like it was so fast and that reliable that that was very insightful session.
yes, yes. So yeah,
So yeah,
it is very good. Yeah, I mean, I just imported a, small data, but I've tried it with millions of rows, and it works with the same speed.
yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay, so we move on to our Q&A session. Aniket, can you please share my slide? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we will just take some questions from our Q&A. So the first one is, sir, can we perform PCA in BigQuery?
Yes, yes. Basically, is principal component analysis, right?
Yeah,
And that's a model the model. And yes, you can use create again same. You use the create model statement, and you can do PCA. You just have to define model type as PCA, and you can do that. Yes. So answer is yes. You can do. And
okay. The second question is as well, Lux, sir, since there is so much of data, how
yeah,
does it process it so fast?
only the PCA, sorry, just to add to the question, because it is right now under preview, so it may not be available for everyone to use that particular to use the PCA model. But of course, once it's out of free GA, which is the general access, which I think after this current last week there was a cloud list, so it should be available very soon for cloud. Otherwise, it's available as of now. It's in pre GA.
Free GA, okay.
Yeah. So before pre general access. So, yeah.
General access terms, yeah. So the second question was like there is so much of data, how does it process so fast?
So that's the power of BigQuery, right? I mean, the infrastructure that Google has built in the backend. See, I mean, just to give an example, data is not new, right? People have been having tons of data since years. So
Yes.
but the compute in power that it requires to analyze those kind of data has tremendously changed. So Google's infrastructure, cloud infrastructure like servers, Google's own undersea cables, equipment processors, along with the software that they use, right? So that entire stack at the
Yeah.
end, so that has improved a lot in last 5 6 years, and that is the reason we see a lot of this ML and AI has become such an easy thing, which was like a very difficult 15 20 years back, or like companies like Google could build something like an AI 20 years back, or ML 15 20 years back, like spam filter and all. But now it has become such a vast that the compute power has increased so much that we need that, and that is the power that they want us to leverage. So the current infrastructure of Google is what something they already use for their services. Yeah, and that's the secret. I mean, that's the insight.
Yeah, right. The next question is like, sir, what are the applications of BigQuery, and is it necessary to learn it nowadays?
Yes. So, I mean, I personally feel that you guys should learn this because, as I spoke in the beginning, also that nowadays, if you would have seen, everything is about data, right? Data is a new one. You would have heard it many times.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, people are collecting a lot of data. See, you have to see, though you guys would be engineer, you have to think this from the business point of view. Like if I'm like I showed you one of our example of ours.com, right? Where how we are collecting the data and how we are using that to get the reports.
To
Because end of
transform your business, with the
yeah,
help of that
basically,
data.
I want to
Yeah.
get insights. So for example, if I have run an app and there are 5 lakh users who are using that particular app, I want to know that what these people are doing. And those insights will help me improve my app performance or my product's performance, right? Unless I know that what people, like for example, e-commerce business, Amazon uses every user's data that what product you're looking at, what kind of things you're adding in cart, whether you're checking out or not, and then accordingly it suggests you certain products and things like that. So all this comes from this sort of thing. So all this you can build in the BigQuery. And if you want to really get into the data science, you should definitely learn this.
Okay. Sir, is Data Studio comes in managed instance group cluster?
So Data Studio is a free tool, which is again, it has nothing to do with instance. Actually, you don't have to even create an instance for that. It is connected with the BigQuery. So, for example, in the current demo project I showed, there is no instance that I've created. I just created a simple BigQuery project, created a data set, created a table, and then just connected with BigQuery. So, connected it with Data Studio, and it's a visualization tool which helps us get the insight. So, it's free tool. There is no paid charges for it. So, you don't need to worry about the instance as well.
Okay. So the next was like you show how we can access data sets, but if I want to create a huge data set for my own crypto, how to do so?
So let's say, as I showed you, when you create a table, there are multiple ways where you can get the data in your BigQuery. So, for example, one of the ways which I showed was the importing the table. Importing this. We say uh, Importing through CSV file, right?
Yeah.
Now, but let's say if you want to, like for example, if you give an example of crypto, you would have some source from where you will be getting this data, right? So either it could be through API, or it could be through a JSON file, or even you can stream the real time. So I spoke about that also. You can ingest your data real time also. So you can use, you can create your own instance basically, or you can create your own way of importing the data, and there are multiple ways to do it. So one of this was just I showed you was CSV, right? There could be a data where
Yes.
you want to bring it through your storage. For example, let's say on crypto you have a lot of data, you're storing that data into Google Cloud Bigtable. So from Bigtable also you can import, or you are creating a file and that you have put it on Google Cloud Storage. You can do that also. If you're storing that data into AWS, you can bring it from there as well. So I mean that's up to you, like from where you want to ingest the data, and there is multiple ways. Or you can create a certain pipelines also from where you can bring that data on the real time through the API. You can push that as well. So yeah, I mean, there are multiple ways, and it could be as large data as it can be into petabytes also. As I said, you don't have to worry about the size of the data.
So the next was like how to improve accuracy with custom model built on AutoML.
So see, basically, usually for any ML model, there are two things which are very important. One is your trained data set, and that is the number of iterations that you drive on that particular. The more the iteration, eventually you will see that okay, now you are getting after a certain point of time that will become more like stable sort of thing. So if you're running 10 iterations, 15 iterations, or 30, 40 iterations, so that means you're getting stable. So then you. Apart from that, in AutoML, let's say if you're talking about specifically about AutoML tables, AutoML table also has a smart way to decide that what sort of model that you should use for your data. So let's say if you have sales data and you want to predict certain sales figures, or if you have some other data and you want to predict something based on that particular. So based on your input data, AutoML table will suggest that okay, this is the model that you should do, and ideally it is optimized. I mean, Google's own infrastructure is optimized in such a way that it will suggest you the right sort of right sort of model for you, and it will then eventually, if you run more iterations, and then the more the training data is, and if it is properly labeled, you will get better results.
Okay. Which Python library is best for AutoML?
So see, ideally you don't need to use. I mean, you can use any Python library. Basically, there could be there is a library called Autoskeleton. So that is one of the open source libraries that you can try. Uh, but I mean that's not, that doesn't restrict you from using any library. So like there are libraries like Autoskeleton is one. There is one more library which is think, teapot, I think, yeah. That is also there, which is a Python library, so it will help you automate this entire thing. There could be, there are many like that. I just use a hyper of things I think, so on. Yeah, so yeah, that could be like you can use any libraries basically.
Okay. The next is like, can you explain a bit more about data security aspect of BigQuery?
So see, ideally, as it is, first thing is like as it is Google's cloud infrastructure. So first level of security is taken care. Again, when we created this data set, you saw that it asked you for the encrypted key. So there is one level of security where it helps you to encrypt the key. That is now at the data set level. Now, if you go further, there is a BigQuery provides a column level security as well. So what does it mean is basically you can define a particular catalog and then you can group that particular column in as a high access, and then you can secure that particular column as well. So because see, you will be getting a lot of data from the client. Let's say if there's sales data, but you don't want to or you want to make your sales figure as your one of your secure column, so that no one kind of uses that data to get your sales data. You can do that. There is a so when you create schema, in schema you can define a policy. In the policy you can have the criticality of that particular column. So, okay, how critical is that particular column? So this, let's say sales data or the employee phone number is one of the very critical
Yeah, right.
column going on. So that kind of thing can be defined, and yeah, once you define that is there. And apart from that, of course, as a Google security is always there as an infrastructure level, so that your data is not leaked. Plus, you have the IAM access uh, 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 access
Access.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
access control. Mm.
identity and access control. So you can use that also. So yeah, I mean that. I mean, as a security, we don't have to worry about whether it's a GCP or it is like more secure infrastructure when it comes to cloud.
Okay. So the next question was like, that is AutoML open source?
No, it is a Google's product, so it is not open source. You have to use GCP and you have to be in the GCP environment to kind of, use the AutoML as a service. So as of now, yes.
Okay. And means I was having a question like, can we use AutoML with Firebase storage? Means like, if I'm storing my images in Firebase storage, and can we implement AutoML or like build a pipeline?
Yes, so you can use Firestore and then you can connect that you can connect with AutoML. So if you are using AutoML Vision, for example, right?
Yeah.
If you want to analyze images, you will be using AutoML Vision API. So yeah, you can use that as well, or you can use Bucket to save money because Firestore costs a little more. So Bucket, uh, it will be much cheaper compared to. So, or you can use any cloud storage. And using the cloud function, you can
With also cloud storage or a cloud function, we can also invoke that function.
do that.
And the last question from my side, like, what are the best practices, like, when means I will be working with BigQuery or AutoML, I should keep in mind such, like, sometimes I saw some of the students like they have to do batch data, and they do streaming the data. So like, what should we keep in mind while working on large data sets or with BigQuery?
See, I mean, ideally, as a developer, of course, you guys can definitely learn all the tools and techniques and coding, right? It's very easy. But when specifically when you're working with data, you need to have the sense of business side of it. Right? So that's what will give the edge to the data that you have. Like any data is as good as if it is just lying on your data on your storage, it's of no use. But when you are using that particular data set, how you can derive business out of it is something that I personally feel that every engineer should learn, not only from the coding side, because I know like you guys can learn Python in a day, you guys can learn any model, build any ML model in like few days. And there are a lot of resources also available to help you build out this thing. Like, there are tons of sessions available on YouTube, and so that's all will give you all the technical knowledge and how to. Like we spoke about how to ingest the data, how to query the data and things like that. Apart from that, what is more
Yeah,
important
right.
specifically? if you are using, if you're going to do your career into data, you need to get the sense of business that okay, this is the data I have. What sort of business derivatives that I can get from this data, or what sort of business insights that I can derive that will help me. So business side of thing is very important, and that I think is it's mostly comes from like common sense. So
Yeah,
you
right.
have tons of and if you think okay, what sort of prediction I should do, that's fine. But why you should do is something that you should think first. Or is there anything better that you can do?
Yeah, right, right. So I think there are no more questions in chat. We will just wait for 1 minute, and then I think we are good to wrap. So
Yes.
till then, I think I urge all the participants to scan this code, or like I will be pasting this link, feedback link in a chat. So let us know your feedback, and it is uh, do fill this feedback form to receive your certificates.
Thank you, Laksh. I hope, thanks everyone who's commented and liked my video. Thanks again, Ninad, and thanks GDSC for inviting me.
Okay, so as we came to end, I would like to thank Rushabh for accepting our proposal and talking and taking out of his time from his busy schedule to help our audience learn more about BigQuery and AutoML.
Anyone
Uh,
has any can always reach out to me. So
yeah,
yeah,
you can reach out to on LinkedIn, or like we will
yeah,
be pasting all his account links, and you can reach out and ask your queries also. So I hope
yes.
that audience have enjoyed this session as much as we do. I would like to thank our audience for being here, and last but not the least, I would like to thank GDSC GHRC team for making this event possible and successful. We help our peers learn latest technologies. Just all you have to do is to connect with us on any of these platforms. The link is in description. And again, thank you everyone for joining here. See you again. Happy weekend. Bye.
Thank you.